A lot of times I go to the cemetery and write it in my car at the cemetery.
Cemetery is a dark place to write a book in.
I guess it wouldn't be normal for somebody to park their car in a cemetery in India and write a book, right?
I can't imagine anybody actually doing that.
Okay, it might be a little odd. I think it's really important for kids to encounter books where they see themselves, right? Because everybody needs to be represented on the page. I've really learned that my readers are all over the world. And so even if I'm writing about the American school system, I'm guessing that there are a lot of things in common with schools in India and Germany, Turkey. That's my goal, to make it feel as universal as possible.
Welcome to Kitabi Cabins. मेरा नाम वाणी है. I had the opportunity to sit down with Jeff Kinney, who is the creator of the series The Diary of a Wimpy Kid. This is also the series that my sibling and I grew up reading when we were kids. So I was very excited about the latest in the series, which is No Brainer, which is again about Greg Heffley. He's still in middle school and the town is about to shut down his school and he has to team up with his best friend and somehow save the school. But what is really beautiful about this book is how it made me go back to the books I already have read, and it made me see the societal themes that I initially might have missed. But again, so excited about the conversation that you are going to listen to now. And Jeff Kinney was patient enough to answer all the questions I've always had in my mind. But without wasting further time, let's just jump right in. Hi Jeff, welcome to Kitabi Cabins. Wishing you a very good morning and welcome to India.
Good morning to you. Thank you very much.
Diary of a Wimpy Kid defined my childhood. When I was growing up, I particularly loved the dynamic that Greg and Roderick share because I have a younger sibling as well. And I pushed him to read all the books with me. What I really liked about The Diary of a Wimpy Kid was that it was one children's book that had a grey character. And I think along with me, everyone I've met has always wanted to know what inspired The Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Oh, what inspired me was really my real life experiences. I grew up as a regular kid living in the United States in a regular house in regular suburbs. But I think that lots of funny things happen to us as kids, like lots of things that happen that we never write down. So I spent about 4 years when I was an adult just trying to remember every funny thing that happened to me as a kid. And so I put it all in one place, and that was the source material for Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Nice. And you said Greg is inspired by your life. How much of it is actually fiction and how much of it is reality? Because there are so many incidents that happen to Greg.
That's true. It's getting a little confusing for me, actually. Somebody asked me recently, because a new movie came out called Cabin Fever. They said, was this inspired by true events? And I was like, I can't even remember anymore. It's getting really blurry for me. So I think that there's probably a little bit of truth in all of the stories in Diary of a Wimpy Kid, even if they're not literally true.
Nice. And what is your writing process?
My writing process, I spend a few months, about 2 months, trying to come up with jokes. A lot of times I go to the cemetery and write it in my car at the cemetery.
Oh.
Because it's kind of a quiet place. I can my world is very closed and manageable. So that's where I start writing. And after that, I start writing the manuscript. And then the last thing I do is I do the illustrations, which is very intense. It takes about a month and a half. And it's about 16 hours a day most days. So that gets very difficult, actually.
Wow. Cemetery is a dark place to write a book in.
It is a weird place. I don't know what the cemeteries are like in India. I've never seen one here. Are they like they are in the US?
Actually, there are different religions here and everyone has a different way. I mean, they're somewhat similar, but they're not always quite.
I guess it wouldn't be normal for somebody to park their car in a cemetery in India and write a book, right?
I can't imagine anybody actually doing that.
Okay. It might be a little odd.
Yes. But congratulations on your new book. And tell us about it.
Yeah, this book I realized that my books, I had gotten away from the school system a bit, and I wanted to bring it back to school and really swim in those waters. So I decided to write about the American school system. It's sort of a satire. It's a satire. I don't know if it resonates with Indian readers, but in the US, I think that a lot of educators, a lot of parents, a lot of kids would understand the problems that I'm writing about in this new book, about budget cuts and book bans and and all sorts of things. So it was a fun book to write, and I was glad to get back to school.
Nice. And you're also giving back to the community with the book tour, right?
I am, yeah. So in the U.S., I toured up the West Coast, and we did about 13 or 14 events. And in each event, we celebrated a library, and kids had a chance to win money for their libraries. So that was really fun. And libraries in the U.S. are really underfunded, so it was nice to be able to make that donation.
There's a book called Velocity of Being, which has a lot of writers writing letters to the young readers on why they should read. And in today's day and age, I want to ask you the same question actually. In today's day and age, where you have so much media to consume, why should people still read?
I think that reading makes you more interesting as a person. I think that reading, you can do a deep dive into a story or a topic that you're really interested in. A lot of kids do consume media through TikTok and Twitter and things like that, but there's nothing like really diving into a topic and really sitting with it for a long time. And I think a really good story has to be read over a period of days, not just in one sitting. So I think for all of those reasons, reading is a good thing.
And I think with the initiative that you're giving back to the libraries, it's just going to promote more people and encourage them to read.
I hope so. I really hope so.
And what are your favorite reading nooks and corners? Do you have any
Oh,
favorites in mind that you like to
that's
go there and sit and read?
you know what's funny is I don't tend to read in the traditional sense. Here I am encouraging kids to read books, but I tend to listen to books, and I tend to, which feels like reading to me. And I read lots and lots of news. I probably read about 5 hours of news a day at least. Yeah, and so I do a lot of reading, and a lot of that is from bed, of course, on my phone. But I also like to, sometimes when I'm on a walk or sometimes when I'm driving somewhere, I like to listen to books. Sometimes I'll read books because I'm the owner of a bookstore. And so we have authors that come through the bookstore, and I always have to read their books. And so probably about once a week, I do read a book, and it's usually in bed.
Do you have some books that defined your childhood, like your series defined my childhood, basically?
Yeah, back when I was growing up, there was a writer named Judy Blume. She's an American writer, and she wrote about kids who, just average kids. And when I read those books, it was like a mirror. So it was like a mirror to my own life. And I think it's really important for kids to encounter books where they see themselves, right? Because everybody needs to be represented on the page. And I was really lucky because I got that experience as a kid.
In today's day and age where everybody is creating, there's something new every day. How do you create without letting the anxiety of the world affect you?
Well, that's a really good question. I This is just what I do, so I have no other choice. It's how I make my living. And sometimes it's fun to write, and sometimes it's not so fun to write. But I just have to do it, and I try to sort of block out the world. But what's really cool for me is that I write these books in my car, like I said, in this tiny town in Massachusetts. And now here I am, just 2 months later, I'm in India, where the book has been published. And that is the miracle of publishing, is that somebody can have an idea and that there's an organization that gets that idea out to the world. And I'm a very lucky person because I've had that experience over and over again to get my ideas out to a bigger audience.
I imagine your readers come from different backgrounds, from different countries. Does the so for example, in this book, you're talking about an American school system. Does that ever affect your audience that the material is based around one singular location, which might be very different from them?
Yeah, that's a good question too. Is that I try to make my books feel as generic as possible. Like I'm really trying not to make it feel like the books are American. And in the early days, I used to write about American holidays, U.S. holidays, and I've really moved away from that because I've really learned that my readers are all over the world. And so even if I'm writing about the American school system, I'm guessing that there are a lot of things in common with schools in India and Germany, Turkey. So that's my goal, to make it feel as universal as possible.
I quickly want to take a question that one of our book club members actually had for you. This is a question by Vineet Singh. So he asks, what are the best tools and environment to help a 10 to 14-year-old's imagination thrive? Something that won't really overwhelm a parent, but they can still get with it.
The best tool really to turn a kid into a writer is another book. Especially if a kid likes a particular genre, if they like science fiction or YA, it's the more you can read, the better you'll be, the better your writing muscles will develop. So you really can't become a good writer without being a good reader first. So books are always the starting point.
And I have another question. This is from Jyoti. She's a long-time fan. And she's asking, will we ever get to see a young adult wimpy kid with new set of struggles that perhaps we have grown up with?
I don't think so. I think that Greg, he's a cartoon character, and the thing that we like about our cartoon characters is that they stay the same. So they really don't change very much, and they're very reliable. And I think that's why I've got to keep Greg the same age.
And who's your favorite character out of the series, apart from Greg?
My favorite character is Rowley because he's a kid who really likes being a kid. He's very innocent. Greg tries to corrupt Rowley, but he can't do it because Rowley's too good and too pure. So I really like that about Rowley.
And before we go, I just want you to take your recommendations for the readers. 3 books that you'd like them to read, apart from, of course, No Brainer, that they should pick up this season.
Oh gosh, 3 books from this season. I should have come prepared for sure. There's a book called The Lost Library, which I think they'll like. There is a book called Starter Villain, which is about a kid who inherits his uncle's evil empire in a way. And then honestly, anything in the Big Nate series, because those Big Nate books are really fun and they're great for kids, very funny. So those are by Lincoln Purse.
Great. Thank you so much, Jeff. And it was amazing to have you. Before we wrap up this conversation, could you please look in the camera and just ask our readers to like and share this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Kitabi Cabins.
Hey everyone, it's Jeff Kinney, author of the Diary of a Wimpy Kid series, and I wanted to say please like and share this video, and I hope you'll subscribe to Kitabi Cabins. Take care.